The Yreka City Council meeting for August 19th, 2025 to order. It's 5:30 and we're you'll need to unload your we must unlock our iPhones. Oh, squirrel. All right. Come back to order, Colleen. Okay. So the first thing that we have on our agenda tonight is public comment on closed session. I see no public in the audience to comment, so we'll move on to closed session. The city council will recess to closed session to discuss the following item, item 3A, which is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9. Name of case, Yreka Properties doing business as Yreka Truck Stop, ABS Development Company, and A1 Investments, LLC versus the City of Yreka. Siskiyou County case number SCSC 24 CV 00401. And we'll recess to go into closed session now. I'd like to call the Yreka City Council meeting for August 19th, 2025 to order. And Councilmember Davis, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Just as a matter of a little bit of housekeeping, please silence your cell phones. And Councilmember Claire and Councilmember McCoy are not with us this evening. So having said that, will the clerk please take the roll?
Good evening, Yreka City Council. Please let me know if you are present by saying aye. Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Thank you.
In addition to the city staff that's here, we also have our attorney, Mr. Jared, joining us via Zoom this evening. And we met in closed session at 5:30, came out of closed session at 6:03 with no reportable action taken. Item number 6 is the approval of the agenda. What are the wishes of the council?
Council Middleton, I'll make the motion to approve as written.
I actually,
Did you say approval for the agenda?
yes, approval of the agenda.
Yeah.
Is this the time to request, Mr. Jared, is this the time to request that an item be continued to the next meeting or when that item comes up on the agenda?
Either one, if staff or council sees fit at this time, they could do so.
Well, we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda.
Oh,
And
I could withdraw if someone was making a change.
Mr. Middleton has rescinded
I'll
his
rescind.
motion to approve it. And I would like to recommend that item 11C, which is discussion, possible action on the future of the Planning Commission, be continued to the next regular meeting so that it can be heard by the full council.
11C.
That's my motion.
I'll second that. Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a second by Councilmember Davis to approve the agenda with item 11C, discussion possible action on the future of the Planning Commission, continue to the next regular meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with Councilmember Middleton, Davis, and Baker voting aye, and Council members McCoy and Claire absent. Item number 7 is presentations, and I would like to welcome Discover Siskiyou to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Heather Cipollone with Discover Siskiyou. This is my colleague, AJ. Thank you for having us here tonight. I do have an update to read for you from our events manager, Sarah Eberens, about the Yreka Summer Concert Series. So we are here to share the exciting news with the council and community that Discover Siskiyou, with the support of the city, has been selected as one of 100 nonprofit applications nationwide to advance to the public voting phase of the Levitt AMP Music Series grant presented by the Levitt Foundation. Out of over 300 applications from across the country, our proposal stood out, and now we have the opportunity to expand our current concert series for the 2026 through the 2028 seasons. The next phase of this grant application is a public voting phase, which will run September 5th through September 15th. And we do need the community support to help us move forward in the competition. The top 50 finalists determined by the public vote will be reviewed by the Levitt Foundation, and strong community support will be a key factor in the selection of the final grant recipients. Final decisions will be announced on November 18th. Votes can be cast online and via text message, and all of the voting info will be posted prominently on the Discover Siskiyou website, on our social media pages. We're going to create flyers around town. You can see there will be a QR code people can scan with their phones, or they can text the word Yreka to a phone number to vote. We are creating a promotional video that we will use footage from this year's concert series to promote public voting across a variety of channels. We have talked to partners in neighboring counties to share, and we also have a number of content creators on social media with really large followings that have offered to share this information as well to help us get even more votes. We feel like we have a really good chance of getting this grant. And then finally, we're really excited to announce that our marketing push will culminate in a special encore concert in Miners Street Park on Friday, September 12th, featuring the Sundown Poachers and the North State Outlaws. So we just wanted to thank you all for your support of us in this application. We think we have a really good chance, and we would just love to continue expanding this concert series that means so much to the community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Everybody get out there and vote for Yreka.
Help us spread the word. Yeah. And I should note too, it's the total award is $96,000 over 3 years. So it's a significant amount of money. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment. Public participation is welcomed and invited at all city council meetings. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concern an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. The city requests that persons addressing the city council refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, or disruptive remarks. Council members, when recognized by the mayor, may ask clarifying questions of presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during the public comment section of the meeting. Under the Brown Act, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. Please speak into the microphone from the podium. The podium electronically adjusts up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please address the council as a whole. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. And if you have documents to present, please provide a minimum of 7 copies as these become a public record. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. And since council is unable to take action on issues not on the agenda, your matter may be referred to staff for follow-up or be placed on a future agenda. The public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with the council or city staff. And I see that we have a member of the public at the podium ready to speak. Good evening.
Lorenzo Love, Yreka resident. I can't make any sense of this EIFD. It seems like it's just money from nowhere. On the agenda, it says, for example, if a property generates $10,000 in annual property tax revenue in the base year and grows to $15,000 after development improvement, the $5,000 increment can be captured for EIFD projects. The property owner pays no additional taxes. The increment represents growth in existing tax revenue due to increased property values. There's no money there. If the property owner isn't paying that extra money, where does it come from? A couple paragraphs later, it says bonds issued by EIFD are secured solely by tax increment revenue, meaning they carry no obligation for city or county general funds. But there's no money. Where does this money come from? What secures this bond if people aren't paying the property tax? There's no, I don't want to pay more property tax, but this is just magic money.
Jan Osborne, Yreka, and I want to just bring to the council's attention some erroneous or misleading information that I found about our city parks online today. Just for fun, I put into the search engine, is it legal to have dogs in Minor Street Park? The result was an AI generated result, and it said, yes, you can have pets in Minor Street Park. I looked farther at other results, and there were some places, some sites that were like for people traveling with dogs, and where can you take your dog in Siskiyou County, and the same information. So I went to the municipal code and checked, because I knew that Minor Street Park, there were no pets allowed. I'm bringing this to your attention because it would be very difficult for someone to find this out. I don't know how AI gets all their information and how you correct it. And yes, they do have a disclaimer that says AI generated responses may include mistakes. But I had to look quite a bit in the municipal code to find the item that deals with dogs in Minor Street Park, Ringy Park, and Shasta Avenue Park. Those three parks do not allow dogs. But it's not in the Title 8, which has to do with animals. It's in Title 9, Public Health, Safety, and Morals, I believe it is. And it's, let's see, chapter 9.50.070 subsection F, that deals specifically with Minor Street Park, Ringy Park, and Shasta Avenue Park. And so I thought, maybe you can contact AI or some of these places, or move that over into the chapter 8 also, have it in both places so that people know, because I think that may be one of the problems that why we have, well, at least why I have to call, or I feel I must call YPD when I see dogs in those three parks. So just a heads up for you. Thank you.
Good evening, Louise Gliotto from Yreka, and I specifically came to this meeting tonight because I thought there was going to be a discussion regarding the Planning Commission. So since you've postponed it for the next meeting, in case I can't make the next meeting, and I prefer to come and do public comment versus an email or a phone call, because I don't know if the phone call, someone just hangs up the phone and said, thank you for calling and forgets what I've said, or they've deleted my email. So I'm coming here to ask you to consider keeping the Planning Commission. I think the Planning Commission is important. I think the better, when we have more citizens involved in city government, the better our government is. And I'd hate to see that disappear. So I'm asking you not to get rid of the Planning Commission. I'm also making a suggestion. I was told that nobody applied for it, but maybe it was maybe the way you let people know about it. I know you put it up on your webpage and maybe your city Facebook page, but a lot of people don't go to those pages. But I know that most people, unless you're in an apartment and you don't pay your water bill, everybody here gets a water bill. So I would recommend that if you're going to let people know, if you've decided to keep the Planning Commission, that you put a flyer or something in the water bill and let people know what the process is to apply, because that might be intimidating to people if they don't know what to do to apply, and maybe what qualifications you would need other than just being a regular citizen. So again, please consider keeping the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Me again. I'm Heather Cipollone here representing Siskiyou Economic Development Council. I just have a brief statement to read from our organization regarding item E on the consent agenda. So on behalf of the Siskiyou EDC, we want to express our support for the city engaging Cosmont to explore the potential for an EIFD in Yreka. Exploring an EIFD is an important step in identifying sustainable funding strategies for infrastructure and economic development projects that will strengthen the community's long-term vitality. We commend the city for taking a proactive approach to evaluating this opportunity and look forward to collaborating on efforts that encourage investment, improve quality of life, and expand economic opportunity in Yreka. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leanna Tello and I live at the Deer Creek Senior Living. And I have a potentially beautiful park that goes right along where I live. And I think that if the community came together, we could make that a beautiful, spectacular Lithia Park. There's a lot of room for a playground. People could picnic there. They could take a dip in the water. There's places where it's deep enough for adults just to take a dip. And there's spots where it's shallow where the kids could, safely put their feet in the water. And I think that we really should work on that because it could be one of the highlights of Yreka if we got it cleaned up. You guys have done such a good job. You got rid of the homeless people and there's bathrooms there and the sprinklers, they need to be fixed. But other than that, if we could, maintain it, it would be a great place for people to hang out, families, instead of the homeless. That's all I gotta say.
Is there any other public comment at this time? Thank you. We will move on to the consent agenda. And all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one motion unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. A, approval, ratification of payments issued from July 29th, 2025 through August 9th, 2025. B, quarterly investment report for June 2025. C, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held August 5th, 2025. D, motion to authorize a service agreement with Bouchard Restoration Reading Incorporated, doing business as ServPro for on-call abatement services. Item E, motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Cosmont Financial Service in the amount of $35,000 for evaluation of an EIFD within the city. And the recommended city council action is to adopt the consent agenda. And what are the wishes of the council?
Um,
Mr. Davis?
can we remove item E? I'd like to know more about that. Can we put it separate?
Yes.
I don't have anything against it. I just want to know more about it at this time.
Okay, so you're recommending that item E be removed from the consent agenda
Correct.
for discussion.
Discussion.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Point of order, you don't need a second to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it on new business.
Just for clarification, is he discussing it tonight or removal for another meeting? I'm not.
Removing it to discuss it this evening.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Okay.
So just to clarify, your motion was to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item E?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion for approval of the consent agenda, items 9 through A through D. Removal of E for discussion afterwards.
Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor made by Councilmember Davis, second by Councilmember Middleton to approve consent agenda items A through D. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries with council members Middleton, Davis, and Baker voting aye, and council members Claire and McCoy absent. So we're going to move on to item E. This is to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Cosmot Financial Service in the amount of $35,000 for evaluation of an EIFD within the city.
All right. Thank you, council members.
Ms. Lucchese, can you explain that a little bit more to us?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
We do also have Joe from Cosma available on Zoom. He can also address any technical questions you may have. So an enhanced infrastructure financing district is a financing tool that municipalities can use to fund infrastructure throughout different areas of the city. So an EIFD is what we typically call in the planning financial world is a TIF district, tax increment financing. And so essentially the very, very quick basic of this is that you have typically it is for development properties or redevelopment properties. And so what it does, it incentivizes developers to come in and instead of having, say, an assessment district, which adds taxes to a property to fund infrastructure, so new infrastructure typically. So you have kind of two different users. You have people who are paying into the utility bill, which is a 218 process, which, as you know, does pay for some infrastructure projects that benefit the whole community. It also benefits for operation it pays for operations and maintenance for your utilities. So those are what your utility bill users pay. So what an EIFD does is it takes a property owner who may have a property that's vacant or that is dilapidated that could be redeveloped. And what that does is it holds the property value at a low value. And then as they invest in their property, the increment that occurs on the property value that is taxed at, the county level, it takes that tax and it puts it into an EIFD district and it utilizes those funds specifically to leverage for bonding, infrastructure loans, any type of grant matches, things like that the district pays for. So the district is whatever you set it up to be. So what we are proposing with this project is to do a feasibility study to look at different areas of Yreka that could be eligible for this type of financing district so that it would incentivize developers to come in, and as they develop their properties, they're going to need additional infrastructure that other people in the city don't need. So as opposed to putting those large infrastructure projects on everyone within the city, those districts take that increment and that increment property tax then goes into that district. So essentially, it's not that they're not paying more property taxes, it's taking that additional property tax that would have been divided to the municipalities. So if the county were to buy into this process, their tax increment on that property and our tax increment on that property wouldn't necessarily go into the general fund. It would go into that district. And that district would then use those funds to leverage additional funding for that specific district to build out infrastructure. And so you see a lot of these go into effect in, like I said, redevelopment areas. So for example, we could use it on properties along Highway 3 that are not currently utilized and are at a very low property value that could be developed into uses that are higher property value. And so the incentive there for us is that if you were to say take so let's use the ShopSmart building. So just because or Rite Aid. Rite Aid's a good one. So Rite Aid's not a terrible building, but say Rite Aid is not the best use for that property now because it's abandoned and you want someone else to go into it, obviously. But say you get a developer who occupies that property and wants to build either a new light manufacturing or a new commercial enterprise like a Trader Joe's. I'm not saying that that's going in there, but that is the example. That is a higher value building than say the Rite Aid building, but maybe that property requires additional infrastructure to facilitate that use. And so if that wasn't an increment financing district, as that Trader Joe's developer pays into that property to improve it, we take that additional property tax and we funnel it into the improvements that are required to facilitate that district. And so that is a very, very simple way of explaining it. And I'm going to hand it off to Joe if I messed anything up in that description, because he is much better at it. And that's why we would be hiring a technical advisor to do the technical feasibility. So, yeah.
Thank you, Juliana, and thank you, council members. Maybe the small pieces that I will add are, as a critical point was made, it's a piece of the future dollars, not necessarily all of the future property tax dollars within the boundary, but it can just be some portion that the city can choose of its share of the property tax dollar. And potentially you can achieve a partnership with the county where it can select some portion of its future share of the property tax dollar to be put in this dedicated fund restricted for infrastructure. This concept of tax increment financing, it's not new to California. It was around in its previous iteration as the redevelopment agencies from about 1950 to 2012. This is the version that exists today. There have been approximately 34 of these formed since 2014 in California, the closest being in the city of Mount Shasta. And everything else that was covered by the assistant city manager, yeah, complete agreement that that is an accurate description of how it works.
Yeah, and going back to one of the reasons why we're recommending to move forward with a feasibility study now to the city council is that you are preparing your 20-year financial plan with Cal Muni and Weiss Law. So that's something that Emily is working on. And part of that 20-year financial plan for the city, it's also looking at creating our first capital improvements plan. And so a capital improvements plan essentially takes all of our infrastructure master plans and it takes all of the projects that we plan to do into the future, whether it be storm drains, water, wastewater, roads, and it takes all of those, and the capital improvements plan itemizes them and prioritizes them based off of what the city council would like to do and what the highest and best need of the city is. And so, for example, you have different areas in the city that need some key heavy infrastructure upgrades that would essentially allow you to develop other parts of the city. So for example, Deer Creek has come up. There is a road that leads into a very large vacant property that has high visibility to the highway, and that needs a huge infrastructure upgrade. We've talked about roads being pulled back there. We've talked about a new sewer lift station needs to go back there. So you're talking about very, very large infrastructure projects that if you don't find a diverse funding package, you're going to be putting a majority of those improvements either on a single developer, or you could potentially be putting that cost on all of your users within your 218 study because you've decided that that's a priority for the city and you put it on the utility ratepayers. And so we don't really want to put it on the ratepayers. We want to be able to find some of these other financing mechanisms that focus on the development itself that is warranting that infrastructure improvement. And so this is one of those tools that potentially could help us. And so what we're recommending to do is, since you're putting together these 20-year plans, you're putting together this capital improvement plan that will be for a lot of your major infrastructure that's coming up in the next 5 to 20 years. This is a really good time to look at if this financial mechanism would work for us. And so we're not asking the city council to commit to doing this. There's actually a number of different steps after the feasibility study that you would have to pay for to instigate that district. But what we are looking at doing is, since we are doing these financial calculations and we do have a significant amount of development interest in various areas that will require significant infrastructure upgrades, this would be a good time to look at if this could be an option for you. One of the other things that we have talked to COSMA as well is there's these other types of financing assessment districts that could be partnered with an EIFD that could also assist in generating funds to fund some of your other types of projects like the Greenway, parks master planning. We've been talking about some of these different avenues that could assist the city in finding resources to be able to fund some of these larger scale projects.
The areas that you can use these funds, are they identified prior to the program? Like you said, there's a spot, got to put roads and sewer lifts and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's identified. It's not just the whole city.
It could be. So it's part of the feasibility. Yeah. So part of the feasibility is we look at what the makeup of your existing businesses are. We look at your areas that are eligible for development. We look at the zoning. We look at your general plan. We look at a number of different things. And it's also your interest. And so you as a council could say, we want to focus on South Yreka. You know, we have that area around the Walmart that has a private sewer system, which a lot of people don't realize that the sewer system for Walmart is not ours. And it has a lot of issues. And so we don't have a lot of sewer in the southern portion of the city, or a water line, actually. Our water main does stop at a portion. So essentially where Arby's is, that's essentially what they're doing, is they're just incrementing that water line as opposed to pulling the full water line to be able to develop out the entire property. And so you could look at South Yreka, you could look at North Yreka, which is essentially your north I-5 interchange with Highway 3. You have a number of vacant properties there that are all commercially developable. The one thing I will note about the EIFD is it only applies to commercial. So it only applies to commercial uses or mixed use development. It does not apply to housing developments. And so the EIFD is not a financing mechanism for that. There are other different things we look at for those. But this would be purely for economic development, is this tool. And so you get to decide as a council what the district area would be at the end of during the feasibility study. We would be doing workshops with you to get input on that. And then we would also be looking at the infrastructure needed to build out those uses. We would also be looking at the different property values and vacant property values out there as well. So that's a very, very high level. But one of the things is, if you do want to move forward with the contract with COSMA, we would set up an informational workshop where they can do this much more in depth with you with graphs and charts, because it's a lot easier to explain when I'm able to, someone's able to draw on a whiteboard and kind of show you how the increment works. But yes, so there's a lot of flexibility with the EIFD. The great thing about the EIFD districts is they do not have to be contiguous. And so you can kind of pick and choose different areas that you want to do it in. So there's really no prescriptive piece to it. So there's a lot that you can play with. But we would advise you to do that through the process, and essentially also take in other data points as well. Because the other thing that we've been looking at this EIFD for is you have a number of industrial uses on Philippi. And so if you want to continue to build out your industrial uses on Philippi Lane, over by Highway 3 in Philippi, that area is going to need some significant water infrastructure and road infrastructure to facilitate that. The EIFD process is something that I'm personally very skeptical of. I've seen it go very, very wrong in other parts of the country, specifically in the Midwest. But I think this is a good time to consider it, since you are going through a lot of these financial exercises, and you do happen to have a lot of development interest, and not a lot of money to pay for very, very large infrastructure upgrades. So,
do you have any other questions, Mr. Davis? Thank you. Mr. Middleton? Any questions? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Delmariatri. How is this not taxation without representation? It seems to me like if you're gonna do this, it's a tax and it needs to go in front of all of the people and be voted on, not just voted on by you three or you five. But the entire city has a right. This is taxes. This is not right. Yeah.
Lorenzo Love, I still don't know where this money comes from. The property owner doesn't pay it. The city doesn't pay it. Where does this money come from that the city's going to use to secure bonds with? There's no money there. It's vapor. I don't know. Your own write-up here says the property owner pays no additional taxes. And it says the bonds issued carry no obligation for city or county general fund. I don't know where the money comes from.
Are there any other public comments on this issue? I'll bring it back to the council for discussion. What are the wishes of the council?
Ms. Baker. I think it's something we ought to explore. I think we ought to take this step and move forward with it and see how it comes back and if it fits us. So, do you need a motion?
Yes. Page 41 of the agenda has the motion.
I move to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional service agreement with Cosmont Financial Services in the amount of $35,000 for evaluation of an EIFD within the city.
I'll second the motion. So we have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Davis, second by Councilmember Baker, to authorize the city manager to enter into the professional services agreement with Cosmont Financial Services in the amount of $35,000 for evaluation of an EIFD within the city. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote on this?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton, Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
So the motion passes with 3 yeses and Councilmember Claire and McCoy absent. Item number 11, city business. Item A is discussion, possible action to approve a resolution of a municipal tax sharing agreement regarding annexation of 3.2 acres within the county. Assessor's parcel number 014430120. And this is the Evans-Wilmarth annexation. Our city attorney will be giving us some information on this.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So this item comes before you tonight, not to approve an annexation, but to approve the tax allocation between the city and the county regarding a future annexation that is on application to LAFCO. There's a process by which property comes from county control into the city, and that's called the annexation process. That is done, as in this instance, by a property owner wanting to become part of the city. Mr. Rick Evans wants to bring a parcel into the city and has made an application to do so. And so part of the LAFCO process is the city and the county get together and discuss how that tax revenue associated with that property that's coming into the city is going to be split. And so what's before you tonight is the result of the city and the county having negotiated through several months now, actually about a year, on this process to see how this will be done for this property. This does not bind the city or the county as to any future parcels. But in this instance, the way that the property tax would be allocated is the current amounts allocated will remain with the county, and then future increment would be split 50-50 between the city and the county. Are there any questions about this?
Just one. If we pass this motion, will Mr. and Mrs. Evans be able to apply for annexation into the city of Yreka?
Yes, they've currently already made that application. This is part of the process. If you pass this motion, this will allow their application to continue on. It will then be processed by LAFCO and then will come to you for an action on the actual annexation, whether or not you want to accept the property in. That's a completely separate vote down the road.
Thank you.
Mr. Middleton?
No questions.
Right. I'll open it up for public comment at this time. So there's no public, oh, excuse me.
I think you guys, I'm Rick Evans, excuse me. This has been like 2.5 years, not a year. I'd really like to see this get done. So is this going to get it done? Or where are we at? That is where we're at. That's all I needed to know.
Is there any further public comment? I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the council. What are the wishes of the council?
Council Middleton, I like the recommendation for the approval of resolution 2025-30 of the Council of the City of Yreka approving a municipal tax sharing agreement between the County of Siskiyou and the City of Yreka regarding a distribution of taxes upon annexation of real property to the city.
A second.
I have a motion on the floor by Council Member Middleton, second by Council Member Davis, to approve this resolution of the City Council of the City of Yreka approving a municipal tax sharing agreement between the County of Siskiyou and the City of Yreka regarding the distribution of taxes upon annexation of real property to the city. All those in favor, please respond by aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes with council members Middleton, Davis, and Baker voting yes, council members McCoy and Claire absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, the city manager. This is a discussion, possible action on directing the city manager to develop a part-time community service officer classification and recruit for the position. Good evening, Mr. Elsnab.
Good evening, Council. John Elsnab, Interim City Manager. At a recent regular City Council meeting, the Council was informed by the public of the increased need for police officers to respond to animal control complaints. Animal control complaints have continued over the last several months, thus causing significant resources to be used by the Yreka Police Department to respond to calls for service. Animal control complaints have also had an impact on staff required to maintain the kennels, which are maintained by the police department. In order to address the increasing need for animal control and other non-emergency calls for service, the city believes creating a community services officer position will benefit the city while providing a service to the community. Additionally, a community services officer can assist with documenting property reports, property preservation, serving subpoenas, writing incident reports, working with the unhoused, and identifying abandoned vehicles within the city. A part-time community service officer will also help alleviate the daily call volume so sworn officers can prioritize calls for service accordingly. The community service officer will be a part-time position that is intended to be utilized on an on-call or as-needed basis during staffing shortages. The hourly rate for community service officer will be in the range of $20 to $25 per hour as a non-exempt position. This position can also be utilized as an entry-level position when the Yreka Police Department is sponsoring cadets through the police academy. The fiscal impact for the part-time community service officer position is estimated at $30,000 per year. Once funding is secured for the position, this would be about 960 hours per year. That would be the maximum. And the recommendation is motion to direct the city manager to develop a part-time community services officer classification and recruit for the position. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions of Mr. Elsnab? Mr. Middleton?
Thank you, Mr. Elsab. So just a quick question: when the position is going to be flown and advertised, it is going to be understood that the position, when you say community service officer, that is going to, they're going to be aware that it includes the animal control officer duties, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
The job description is pretty specific on animal control. There's quite a few citations to animal control.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, do you have any questions?
Oh, currently the officers are animal control, all of them. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Davis.
Now, this responsibility is not going to be alleviated from them, is it? Even though we have a part-time I lost the word, part-time community service officer. Are they done with the animal control?
My answer to that would be no, Mr. Davis. This would be in addition to extra help or extra work that's available, that's needed. If there's no community services officer, the duties still remain with the officers to handle animal control, whether this position is here or not. If it was memorialized into a full-time position, we would go through a different, probably more of a meet and confer process and look into it a little bit more in detail. There will still be meet and confer potentially with the Yreka Employees Association moving forward.
Right. We did have an animal control officer, and then we combined the funds for that into a full-time professional officer. Yes.
I believe that is correct.
Not too long ago, I remember that right there. So we do have an animal control officer. We have part payment in one of our officers for that. So, okay. Do you think this is a necessity?
I think it would benefit the city and the community, especially with the call volume for animal control complaints and the needs at the kennels, as well as police cadets going through the academy. I think would be a good entry-level position where they can eventually turn into a sworn officer.
Thank you, Mr. Elsnab.
I will open this item up for public comment at this time.
Jan Osborne, Yreka, and I encourage you to approve this hiring or advertising and hiring a community service officer as one person who has made a number of calls to YPD about animal control issues, either loose dogs or dogs off leash that are supposed to be on leash, or all dogs running through my yard when I'm having breakfast. It's just not been a good thing. And so I call, and I can tell you that I know each officer, sworn officer, is also an animal control officer now. But the truth is, they have much higher priorities. And often when I call, the dispatcher will say, I'll let an officer know he's working, they're on something else right now. And I know there's lots of things that take more priority, life and death situations that they need to take care of. But I think it would be great to have a person who is dedicated to doing animal control and all those other things he listed. I would also recommend that curfew enforcement for minors be one of the things that he could do as well. But please help out the police department and the community that deals with all these animal problems by approving this. Thank you.
Lorenzo Love. With all the duties assigned to this community service officer, it should be a full-time job. Maybe 2 or 3 people doing full-time jobs. You're going to say there's no money for that. Well, the difference between a part-time community service officer and a full-time community service officer is about $35,000. If you can keep giving money to consultants by the truckload, you can afford to hire people that's going to help the citizens of Yreka. We need a full-time animal control officer, and we probably need a additional community service officer. But priorities.
I'm Leanna, and the Deer Creek Park, there has been a lot of animals running loose there. They were the homeless and the homeless dogs, but it made me feel uncomfortable as that I couldn't even walk down there last summer because of the dog situation. So I think it would be great to have just a person that does animals only, and we could call them instead of having to call the CHP or whatever, you know, and when they got time, they could come and take care of that problem.
Is there any further public comment? I'm going to go ahead and bring the discussion back to the council. I have some concerns, but I'd like to hear from my fellow council members first. If you have any discussion that you'd like to bring up at this point in time.
Thank you. Well, I think at the start, to create a community service officer with animal control, just because we haven't had one. And as our police are busy with other calls, whether it be medical, crime, everything comes with becoming a police officer. I think with some of the other calls that come in that does need a report, a community officer would be a much welcomed presence to our citizens to take a report, say a vandalized mailbox or whatever. I think our officers need to be available because they're busy on other crimes, and this position be opened up for the animal control, because of course we know they're still going to respond because animals are going to get out at 10 o'clock at night. I'm sure community service officer is not going to be working at 10 o'clock at night. So I'm sure our officers will still respond to those calls. However, I think it'll lift the load during the day with our officers that need to respond to much needed and an ever busy schedule in our town regarding crime or whatever is going on with them that they're paid to do and trained to do, and to pay our officers what we do to go for a dog call. They're getting paid quite a bit of money to take care of a dog when they could be taking care of, major crimes. And so I think this is a step in the right direction. I hope that it would turn into a full-time position, because I think it's going to require that if they're going to wear both hats during the day, whether, responding for community service called to take a report or whether it be animal control. I think their load's going to be heavy, so I hope it would turn into a full-time position. But I think it's a start and a much needed to bring back the animal control officer because a community, or maybe down the road, hopefully, I'm not an optimistic person. I hope we can be in a financial place where we could have both,
Mhm.
a full-time animal control officer and a full-time community service officer. So hopefully that could be a goal. Hopefully that we can achieve. And yeah, it takes money, but maybe we need to look into the future of the budgets down the road and how can we make that possible to make our police department better and to have those two separate positions. And so that's what I'd have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, any further comments? Thank you. I have to say that when I read this job description, it was a little bit overwhelming to me. And I just have some concerns that I would like to share with you, Mr. Elsniab. With all of these responsibilities and this being a part-time position, I am personally not optimistic that the city residents are going to be any better served. My experience with YPD has been at times very positive, but there have been times when I've made calls that nobody has responded to, nobody has gotten back to me. And I would hate to see us approving this position and the community services officer works 20 hours a week. So you call in with, we're talking about animal control. You call in with an animal control complaint and the dispatcher tells the caller, oh, I'm sorry, our community service officer is off for the rest of the week. He's put in his hours. So we'll put this on a call tag for him. It'll be handled next week. That to me is not acceptable. I just want to guarantee from the police department that if we go forward with this position, that does not mean that all animal control calls are going to be put off on this person, that officers are still going to be responding to calls. And this is just in addition to the officers. I just don't know how to make it any more clear that I don't want our citizens being told, yeah, we'll get around to it next week. When our community services officer is on duty. I hope I've made myself clear to both you and the representative from the police department. I'm aware that this is a new position and there's going to be, a period of adjustment, but I just don't want our citizens, the service to our citizens, to be less than it is. And I hope that didn't come out wrong. I think our police department does a fine job. I just know they're really overworked, but I don't want this position to be an excuse to put people's concerns off.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
Mr. Middleton.
Madam Mayor, and my hopes would be that also that the pay go on the upper end of and not the lower, because as you said, reading the job description, I don't think we'd get more applicants at $20 an hour. So I'd hope that someone applying would have the experience, or we just offer that wage for a part-time position, because when they see the duties and say, why would I apply for $20 an hour when I'm doing this 2-page description of a position for 20 hours a week? So I just would like to add that I would hope we consider the maximum pay that's available to that person, because they are gonna, that's a large, as you said, a job description for a part-time position. So we want to get somebody quality, but I don't think we attract, maybe I'm wrong, somebody applying for it to say, look at all these duties for $20 an hour.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well,
Do we want Mr. Elsnab to rewrite the job description to be more directed animal control? Or do we want to leave it as it is? I just throwing that out there for thought.
Mr. Elsnap?
If I can add, so the job description is in draft mode, although it is very heavy, in my opinion, on animal control. There's plenty of language to speak to it. So I think bringing it back in another draft mode doesn't really have a benefit. And I would say, let me work with my staff and my team and the department to develop the right job description. We always try to build them for the current needs as well as the future. And I think that's totally within our wheelhouse to complete. That's just my feedback.
Thank you. So what are the wishes of the council?
Councilman Middleton, I'll make the recommend city council, I'm sorry, recommend the city council action, the motion to direct the city manager to develop a part-time community service officer classification and recruit for the position.
I'll second that, please.
Thank you. I have a motion on the floor made by Councilmember Middleton, second by Councilmember Davis, to direct the city manager to develop a part-time community service officer classification and to recruit for the position. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes with council members Middleton, Davis, and Baker voting aye, and council members McCoy and Claire absent.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. And item C is being continued to the next meeting, so we're going to move on to item F, which is the city manager staff reports.
Good evening, council. I have a couple quick updates. I did want to point out that our September 2nd meeting is canceled, which was approved on the 2025 calendar. I also want to let the council know, as well as the community, we hired our first fire captain. He started yesterday for the Yreka Fire Department. At the next scheduled meeting, we'll have a presentation where we'll be able to introduce him. Marcus Smith, we're very proud to have him on our department, very well qualified. And then as a follow-up on the park host, the position has been posted online and we're actively recruiting for it, looking for volunteers. So we're looking forward to working through that process. And then I also wanted to let the council know and the public that the city's website has been redesigned and completed. And I would recommend the council taking a look at it to look at the new design and the new features and the new updates.
I hope you like the design.
Thank you.
I'm gonna change colors.
Are there any other staff reports this evening?
No, that'll be it.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll move on to item G, which is the mayor, council members' reports, statements, and requests. Mr. Davis, we'll start with you this evening.
Well, thank you. You know, we were talking about animal control, and the YPD and their officers are the animal control officers. I was involved into it was a heart-rendering decision, but the YPD was A1 supreme. A friend of mine works at the Canine Kennels in Truck Village, and she called me and said, we're having a trouble in Upper Greenhorn Park. They're walking a dog situation. So I told her I'd be right over, and I came over. And by that time, the Yreka Police Department had arrived, 2 officers, and they had a 4-wheeler, a quad type situation. And I met them. They were coming down, and a couple had been walking, and their dog had died. And she called 911, and these fellows were outstanding. They were concerned about the animal. They were concerned about the people involved. I would say they did as good a job as could have been done representing, the city and keeping everything focused and in a low key. And I was going up to help, and they picked me up and gave me a ride back to the parking lot. And they went off and parked their machine, came back, and we were still there talking about, the situation with the folks. And they made eye contact with everybody there and made sure it was okay for them to leave. They made eye contact with me, and I just came late, But I want to say that the Yreka Police Department, they really stood up all in my book. So I wanted you to know that. And there was no fire safe council meeting. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Middleton?
Say just real quick, we did have our COC meeting. I served as the alternate because the change had been made and they forgot to put in the application for me to take over for the main voting position. So, that'll be on the that'll still be on the next meeting. Is my application to be the voting member. So I served as the alternate and did vote. And so of course the major discussion was of course the Hill, the progress, what's next, just different problems the city's seeing or will see or will have for a little while. So I think we're dealing with that, of course, but just a report of how it went, where we go on from there. One of the takeaways was a discussion on both sides for the county or the city of Yreka, moving forward, possibly a discussion or future of having an urban campground. So I know the county is saying they have no money, and I don't know if we have any money, but I guess that's a further discussion down the road, whether that's going to be a plan or needed. But I did hear that the Foothill Drive for the pallet shelters, I think they had one left, or they're probably full by now. So those are already filled up. That's what I heard. So they're full, and I think the shelters beds are. Of course, this is old information. We don't know if they're full one night or if they're, 14 or 15 on one night. But that's the reports I heard at the meeting, and so it was a good discussion. They have a lot going on still, and as I see, there's still going to be a lot more to come. I think there's going to still be a much needed facilities for the future. So, because everything's rather new right now with the hill being cleaned up and whatnot, but it was nice to hear that the facilities are being taken care of or being used or taken advantage of, I should say. And I think that's it. Just the next agenda. I didn't get it on this one. We'll bring back the discussion with the open Fridays for next meeting. I guess that's probably the middle of September, right? So that'll give time. It's been a little crazy for me to write the thing up to have it in the agenda. So with that, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a relatively short report this evening myself. I'm continuing to meet weekly as we all have the opportunity to do with Mr. Elsnap. I'm continuing my Friday open chambers hours, and that's becoming very, very popular. I might have to start having people make appointments. Just kidding. Anyway, I'm really enjoying those. And in addition to that, this morning I did a live on the air interview with Jefferson Public Radio. They wanted to interview me about just what's going on in the city of Yreka. And that was a lot of fun. I'd like to remind the council that I believe next week we have a personnel hearing scheduled on Wednesday and Thursday. I do have one request. For quite a while, the council was receiving a monthly or a regular update from the building department activities. And we haven't received one of those in quite a while. If we could start receiving those on a regular basis.
We just finished the reporting this week, so we were just behind on the monthly reporting. We're very busy right now, so it just sometimes takes us a little bit longer. So it would be at the next meeting.
Thank you so much. And in addition to that, I want you to know that I did notice the redesign of the website when I went into it this weekend. And I really like the design. So thank you to those staff members who were responsible for that. I think that it is going to be a much more user-friendly website for the public and for council members as well, with a lot of really good information. So with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:40.
Great.